You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. The Tide 100.9 app.
Studios in Los Angeles. Here's Eddie Garcia.
In college basketball, the men's national title game, top seed UConn beat fellow top seed Purdue 75-60 as the Huskies pulled away in the second half to win their second consecutive national title. First time we've had repeat national champs in men's basketball since Florida did it in 2006 and 2007. Boilermakers star Zach Edey led all scorers with 37 points. Unfortunately for him, his teammates only added 23 points in total. UConn wins its sixth national title in men's basketball, tied with North Carolina for third most all time behind UCLA and Kentucky. Huskies have won every tournament game over the last 2 years by double digits. NBA had the night off in baseball. The Yankees shut out the Marlins 7-0. New York leads the American League with a 9-2 record. Pirates top the Tigers 7-4. Pittsburgh leads the National League with a 9-2 record. Dodgers get their ninth win, beating the Twins 4-2. Shohei Ohtani, a home run. And the Cubs had an 8-0 lead in San Diego against the Padres, end up losing 9-8.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to recruit you, and our running back coach didn't take the biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Bama Sports. The playbook for today, DC Capstone Report joins us to talk Bama hoops and Nate Oates. SEC hoops in general have we seen the beginning of the musical chairs. We'll talk about the Natty last night. UConn, dominating and proving that they're clearly the best team in the country. How do you feel about your Alabama Crimson Tide post seeing how UConn handled Purdue? Does it make you feel even better about the season? We'll get DC's thoughts on scrimmage number 2 and A-Day game coming up this weekend. Lots of conversation to get to. This is the Martin Houston Show, the Sound of Alabama Sports, your show, your team. That's right. We're talking football with Alabama sports and more with Martin Houston. Some great things happening around the capstone as well. So if you want to get to any of that, you're welcome to bring it up. And I have one other topic. If we have time, we'll get to it. The making of a GOAT. Once again, I throw out there, the narrative has been that Michael Jordan is clearly the GOAT because he's 6 for 6 in championship games. Therefore, he's the GOAT, which I don't understand that logic either, because that would make Bill Russell the GOAT, since he has like double-digit championships. But anyway, the Caitlin Clark conversation has made that more relevant. Some people have called her the GOAT, but she didn't end with a championship. And even last night in the intro of the game, Candace Parker, Tennessee women great, said, "You can't be a legend without a championship." Love to hear your thoughts on that. You're welcome to bring that to the conversation. The phone lines are open. You can call the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904, or you can add your thoughts and comments in the chat, in the live stream, Alabama Sports with Martin Houston on Facebook. Comment, react, questions all can be worked into the conversation. So we look forward to hearing from you there as well. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir?
Oh, good morning. Doing great. How you doing, X? How you doing, Martin?
Doing good.
All right. Several different places to go. DC, we'll get a quick reaction to the national championship game. And then we'll go from there because since that's not specific to Alabama, but kind of has some impact potentially on how you feel about Alabama basketball.
Well, I definitely think it can have some impact on, if you're a fan of Alabama basketball, if you watch those two games, you clearly saw the difference between UConn and Purdue and the difference between Alabama and UConn. There's, I would say Alabama played UConn a tougher game and was able to take them out of their game in the first half and showed that they could be beat. Alabama didn't have enough to finish it out. But I'd also think that Purdue didn't go at UConn the way that Alabama or Creighton showed they could be, or was unable to do that. I don't think either. Well, I'll say this: Alabama is a much better shooting team than Purdue, and I think that's at all 5 spots, and that reigned true. I don't think Purdue made more than 1 or 2 3-pointers all night. And you got to make your 3-pointers if you're going to have a chance to beat UConn. And you got to create your own. And I don't think Purdue was able to do that. So if you're an Alabama fan this morning, you ought to feel better. Clearly, it looks like Alabama was the better, the 2 better teams playing was Alabama versus UConn instead of UConn versus Purdue. So I give all credit to UConn. UConn's a great team, played a great game, did a great job to win the championship.
Is what Bobby Hurley did, because I think what Natos did getting this Alabama team to the Final Four after what happened in the off season, what happened early in the season, holding it together, how he brought them back together after the end of the season is what Bobby Hurley did just as impressive. Dan Hurley did just as impressive, being that he won a national championship and just about had a brand new team this year as far as starters. And the way they dominated, won every game by 13 points or more. And the only reason we get to say 13 points or more is because that's what the Alabama team got it down to.
Yeah, I think it's extremely impressive. I don't know that. When you look at it, what's been 2006, 2007, since any team is repeated, that's the feat in itself. And then you go with the fact that he took an almost completely new team, at least the starters, had to build the culture, had to compete entire year, only lost, 3 games, and just dominated their opponents by double digits. I think, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best coaching feats that's ever taken place in college basketball.
X, he made the statement after the game. He made 2 statements. One of them was, he said, we recruit a bunch of NBA players who don't think it's all about them. You know who else said the same thing? Dawn Staley. She said, we recruit a bunch of future WNBA players, and I tell them in the recruiting process, if you want to be a superstar and lead the nation in scoring or rebounds or whatever, this is not the school for you. But if you want to come win championships, come play for us. Both of them kind of said the same thing. Can Alabama, could that be the next step in Nate Oates' evolution as a coach, or is he already of that mindset?
he's definitely working towards that mindset. I mean, when it takes time to get that together, especially, excuse me, where Alabama was starting from where UConn was starting from, but he's definitely working on that path.
DC, does what happened in both men and women also change the mindset of the one and done? Because Jed Cohen pointing out once again the similarities between these two champions of the male and female basketball world respectively. You know, South Carolina had 5 new starters. But what's interesting is they both last year felt like they lost because they didn't have the additional shooting. And ironically, the coaches, the players themselves watched, and I think his name is Spencer, Spencer, and Pow is the female for South Carolina. They were watching the games and said, I could go there and help them win. And so, is that also the new formula potentially? And is that potentially why Cal is, leaving Kentucky, is you have some guys that you keep that are not quite superstars and ready to play one and done. And then when they get a little bit under their belt, you go out and add some grad assistant, 3rd, 4th year guys to the mix.
I think you're definitely on point there. I think one of the reasons Kyle's leaving Kentucky is he's just exhausted. He's exhausted coaching a team of prima donnas who are one and done, thinks it's all about them. And you got the whole dichotomy of that. You got the whole opposite of that in UConn and South Carolina and other teams that are built around a team concept that everybody's going to distribute the ball. There's going to be no superstar. Everybody gets double figures and we win. As everybody rises, the team rises. And I think you've seen Nate Oates. I agree with X. I think Nate Oates is on the way of doing that at Alabama. I don't think he had the full team to do it with when he first got here, and he built around some superstars. But he has been able to do it with last year's team and this year's team to a certain extent, especially this year's team. I believe last year's team relied too much on one person to get them over some humps. This year's team drew on a lot more people, and I think that's the concept you're talking about. Go back and look at Alabama's teams this year. Games this year, we had multiple players, 3 at least, in double figures in most games. And if you can get like UConn, have 4 or 5 in double figures or close to double figures, you're doing great. What the superstar on Purdue's team scored 37 points. No one scored 30 points on UConn's team, and yet they won by double digits. I think that's the concept you got to look at. I mean, it's not all about me, but this generation that we're in, when I say we're in now with NIL, it's been in basketball much longer than that with the one and done type thing. So I think we're seeing it coming back around full circle to more of a team oriented that teams win championships. And I think Alabama's on the right track. And I think you're on point with Coach Calipari leaving Kentucky. I think it's exhausting coaching a team of one and dones every year, who's thinking about me and thinking about getting the NBA rather than thinking about team winning a championship.
Well, he built that culture, and that culture at one point may have been the way to go. But now that I can go out and get a grad transfer that moves from one school to the next, and I can see them play, and they can come to my school as a grad or as an individual after they've gotten developed somewhere else. I'm going to tell you, you might be better than in the regular season, but you can't make 6-game runs consistently with a bunch of 18-year-olds. And I think that Cal has finally come to grips with that. We'll talk about what that means for Kentucky, what that means for the SEC, what Calipari's decision means for Alabama basketball, and so on and so forth. But I got a question I want you guys to think about. If you were an athletic director, would you have to consider the possibility of shaking up the world and going after a coach like Dawn Staley? I'm just asking that. Just let y'all noodle on that. a little bit. I do not think, and you can send me hate mail or whatever. I do not think women are ready to play, basketball with men. And I'll give a reason of why I think that is the case. But X's and O's is X's and O's. If you garner the respect, would you consider it? We'll talk about it on the other side. We got Alan that wants to talk about being a GOAT. It's the Martin Houston Show, man. We can go wherever you want to go this morning. We have DC Capstone Report in with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We are underway for this Tuesday morning drive, free and clear of anything much to get in your way. The drive along McFarland, if you're coming down from Coker through Northport down to U of A and I-20 beyond, you're moving nicely with no big problems there. 2059 is at posted speeds as well for the drive.
Lone Star, Saturday, May 25th, Pearl River Resort Silver Star Convention Center.
No news. 365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow trucks, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside.
Right now, get $1,000 off select laundry appliances with Spring Black Friday savings in-store and online at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Cloudy with occasional showers, maybe a thunderstorm in spots today and tonight. The high today 73, tonight's low 60. Tomorrow, rain and thunderstorms likely. The rain tomorrow could be heavy at times. The afternoon high at 77. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 57 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. It's a Tuesday edition of the program. We have X on, we have DC on. We're glad that you're on and listening, whether it be via the radio airwaves, whether it's on the live stream, et cetera. Biscuit Bruce asking a question off air. They're not one of my sponsors, but I do appreciate them greatly. That's Southern Ale House. They've been doing some different things with bread pudding, and I guess he was listening to me on the game with Ryan Fowler on yesterday. They had Butterfinger bread pudding. I went by and tried that out. So, it was good as always. But the best still is the red velvet. DC, they have red velvet, bread pudding that they occasionally roll out. I'm going to need that to become no, I don't need it to become a regular menu item because I put all that weight back on. Never mind. Do not make that a regular item. Let it be special. But anyway, let me talk about one of my sponsors, Taco Casa. Taco Casa, quality, taste, and value under the biggest cactus in town. 50 years, man. They've been doing it the right way. Go by and grab you one of those T-shirts and help show some love and support for Taco Casa, quality, taste, and value. Like I said, under the biggest cactus in town. Your choice for lunch and or dinner today. Check them out online at tacocasa.com. The Wilkin family, great part of the Tuscaloosa community and great part of the Alabama football community as well. So looking forward to watching what a young man that's associated with that family, Wilkin Formby, will be able to do and accomplish as he's right now holding down as a redshirt freshman, holding down that right tackle position. And I'm so excited about that because, of my relationship with him and having helped coach him in high school. So excited about what he's able to accomplish, so far. And we'll keep it going. DC, X, I'll let you guys respond, then we'll get to Alan. Dawn Staley, if you're out there, would you consider hiring Dawn Staley? Would she make your list of potential coaches with what she's been able to do? She's 109-3 in the last 3 years. And she's 74-1, I think, the last 2 seasons. I think that's the record. And that was to Iowa last year.
Well, I don't know if she would make the list of ADs out there, but if I was an AD, she would make my list. And that's because I know that good quality, wisdom, knowledge of a game like she has translates whether you're playing in the women's sport or a man's sport. And the reason I know that is my experience in my profession. As many of your listeners know, my profession is in the legal field. Been an attorney for many, many years, and I actually now practice before the head judge of the court that I'm in is a female, and she is the most intelligent individual I've ever run across in my career, and is always leading us in the right direction. And we always look to her for guidance. So she definitely can do it, and I think that Dawn Staley can do it on a top level as well. So, in my opinion, you don't get any argument from me. She would definitely be on my list. Now, would she be on many of the men's ADs around the nation? I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah. What you think, X?
Yeah, she can definitely coach, and I think the coaching aspect translates. But I agree with DC. I don't know how many ADs would want her, but she can definitely coach the game.
Yeah, I think that there's, do you want to be the first, and to what level would they give it opportunity? But she can flat out coach it, and this is going to probably offend somebody. But it's my opinion. The fact that, they practice, she practices, she has a group of young men that come out and practice. And so she doesn't practice against her team. She practices against men. And none of these guys would make, a college basketball team, but they get her girls ready, her young ladies ready to play at an extremely high level. So, I'll let you, reply, DC. Virgil Williams saying last night was the first time he got to watch Edie play like a whole game, and he gets away with so much, it's ridiculous. Glad to see UConn take it. CJ replying the number of offensive fouls he commits that don't get called. He fouled every time. Poor Clingan has an imprint in his chest from Edie literally dropping his shoulder. The literal definition of an offensive foul is dropping your shoulder into a stationary player's chest. And he does it every time. DC?
I agree 100%. Don't get me started on the officiating in this college.
It's bad.
If you had to get me to talk about the officiating in the Alabama-UConn game, it would sound like I'm whining, but I would actually be showing you evidence. And I know what you know what I'm talking about, Martin. You can recall the plays one by one. I can give you 15 or more plays in the Alabama-UConn game where it seemed like the officials had a agenda in their calling fouls.
Hold that thought, DC, because I'm going to come back to that.
Okay, that's fine. And so I agree they had an agenda also in this Purdue-UConn game, and it was on display. And yes, Edie got the benefit of their agenda.
Yeah, what's crazy is that's the first time I think I've seen Edie have to go against somebody that could match him. And I watched him, man. He was balling in the beginning. I looked at Cassandra when he hit point about 10, and he was at the free throw line, and he was heaving, man. I mean, when you start breathing, you see the whole head and shoulders come up, you trying to get some oxygen. I said, oh, big boy is balling, but he is going down fast. And he did. He just could not hold on. Could not hold up. And that's what he's going to get in the pros. He's going to have other 7-footers who can bump with him. So I think that doesn't keep him from getting drafted or anything. But if anything, Clingan's stock went up. Edey's either went down or leveled off at best. It did not rise because he did not dominate beyond the first 10 minutes of the game. He was pedestrian at best and went 11 minutes without scoring at one point. So, we'll talk about it. Alan, you're in on the Alabama One hotline, and I think you want to talk about that topic where I said the making of a GOAT. Is Alan still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, Edey won't make it in the NBA. I give him 1 or 2 years and he'll be out. He's just not, he has no footwork whatsoever. So he'll be gone in a couple of years. Now we want to talk about the GOAT. Okay. If people are saying, cause she scored all these points, she's the GOAT. Well, Antoine Davis scored all them points up there with Mike Davis up there. And, nobody talks about him. Cause obviously he's not the GOAT. You gotta, just cause you score points don't make you the GOAT. If people forgot about Lisa Leslie, and they forgot about Cheryl Miller, those are great players. Now this girl can ball. She was good, but she is definitely not the GOAT.
But once again, what makes the GOAT? If you love basketball, Alan, I'm gonna just take the other side. If I love basketball and basketball is about scoring, she's the GOAT. And you can't argue that.
Okay, if that's the case, that make Antoine Davis the GOAT?
I don't know. He's not the leading scorer of all time. Pistol Pete's the GOAT. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying, let me read you my post, in DC, and then I want DC to respond. This is what I said. I said the term GOAT gets thrown around a lot these days. How do we define the term? Is it the most championships? For some, yes. Is it the most records? For some, yes. Is it the most wins? For some, yes. Is it the most impact on the sport? Some say yes. And sports and culture. Or watch this. Steph Curry is considered the GOAT by some because he changed the way the game is played the most. Do you think Michael Jordan changed the game of basketball as much as Steph Curry? Do you think LeBron even changed the game as much as Steph Curry? No, Steph Curry made it possible for little kids all over the world, and even not only that, the reason we have a Caitlin Clark is because of Steph Curry. I mean, literally, look at all of the guys who are in the NBA. Look at Mark Sears. There is no Mark Sears probably if there's no Steph Curry. DC, what are your thoughts? And then we'll let Alan respond.
Well, first of all, I think we're trying to define a term, GOAT, greatest of all time, in a way that everybody that's saying that word and throws that word around is not defined. Everybody's defining it subjectively. Yep. They're the greatest of all time to them. And I don't think we have much of a standard that everybody can agree on as to what the greatest of all time means. So until we can define it objectively, we're never going to agree on who's a GOAT or who's not a GOAT. In my opinion, it is a combination of multiple things, and I think championships has to be a part of that. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, when you think of the Buffalo Bills, most of the people outside of Buffalo fans would say that they're the team that never won a Super Bowl, but they dominated and got to more Super Bowls in a row than anybody else. They just never won one. But their legacy is not winning a Super Bowl, so that taints their legacy. And I think that championships have to be in the equation when you're talking about who is the greatest of all time, either coaching or playing. But that's not the only thing. But no one has defined it. I think that's where we're seeing the issue is, why no one can agree who a GOAT is.
Alan responded, and I want to share something that probably defined GOAT the best. Go ahead.
Okay, Alan. now we're talking about Steph Curry. The game changed when they made them stop hand checking. They stopped hand checking. That helped Steph Curry them, the smaller guys out a lot.
But that's also. Hey, no. That's why Michael Jordan was as good as he was. Michael Jordan got more touch fouls. Michael Jordan, now don't get me wrong, Michael Jordan is clearly skilled, and Michael Jordan was my dude, Alan. Don't get me wrong. But Michael Jordan was the Edey of the NBA. He got more touch calls than anybody, and he was already better than everybody.
My goal is all time, like everybody's subjective, is Magic Johnson. Because he played all 5 positions, won championship. I'm a Magic Johnson fan. So,
how many championships
it's subjective.
How many?
3?
5.
5? Okay.
Okay. Well, LeBron got to 10 finals, won 4, and owns all the records and plays every position, is going to be in the top every statistical category. So he has an argument for being the GOAT. And that's my point and here's my point, Alan, and I'll let you go ahead. People started calling Caitlin the GOAT. And I think Caitlin is one of the greatest scorers and the best pure shooter. Like, there's no argument to me on whether Steph Curry is the best shooter the game has ever seen, when he came into the league. Now, there's some young guys out there that's probably going to come and be better than him because they're doing it a lot longer. But she is the Steph Curry when it comes to shooting of women basketball. But people said she was the GOAT, and then she didn't win a championship. And I said, all of the people who have argued that Michael Jordan is the GOAT because of championships over LeBron, they can't say the same thing about Caitlin now because they would be contradicting themselves. Dawn Staley did great justice, and she said the following: "Thank you, Caitlin Clark. If you're out there listening, Caitlin Clark, listen. Thank you for what you've done for our sport. Caitlin Clark may not be your GOAT. She may not ever be the GOAT. She may not be the best basketball player, but she is the most impactful basketball player in terms of that sport sustainability, popularity, and money coming into that sport and people getting into that sport. More people watched women's basketball this year than probably watched the last 5 years. Different people, not total, different people. And it's because of her. So Staley said, you are one of the GOATs of our sport. Why come we can't just say that? Why do we have to hate on LeBron because we like Michael? LeBron is clearly one of the GOATs of the game. But so is Bill Russell.
Mount Rushmores. We need to do Mount Rushmores instead of trying to, because there's so many different qualifications and so many different standards that you can have for GOATs. Do Mount Rushmores. It makes it easier.
Yep. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. Oh man. Hey, DC, I'll let you close out and then we got to get the break. We're a little over. Thanks, Alan.
I think just because we don't have a good definition and not all talking about the same thing. I agree with X. It's hard. You say greatest of all time. One of the greatest of all time is fine, or a Mount Rushmore of the greatest. But you're never going to get anybody to agree, because if we did a Mount Rushmore today of the greatest basketball players, mine, yours, and X's are all going to be different, and we won't have some of the same people on it because we're never all going to agree on what's the greatest of all time because of the subjective nature of that.
Yeah, and that was my whole point behind it. So we'll never ever agree on what a GOAT is, but we can say that there's certain things that you have to do to get into the conversation. And Caitlin Clark is in the conversation, but there's also part of the reason you have Cynthia Cooper, you have Lisa Leslie, you have Taurasi, you have there's some. If y'all don't know about,
Caitlin Clark is the Dan Marino of women's basketball.
Great.
That's a great analogy.
Great analogy. Dan Marino, clearly one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, doesn't have a championship, so he didn't get thrown into the conversation. So, it is, like I said.
Foundation. They even do pest control and lawn care. Full service Alabama Professional Services at alabamaprofessional.com.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Hey, don't forget to go to alabama1.org, alabama1.org, one spelled out. We have our annual golf tournament to benefit our foundation as well as help fund our Bridge Builders Conference, which is a free faith-based conference that Alabama One hosts in November. The golf tournament is June 13th. You can get all the details there. We'd love for you to be a sponsor and or put your team in the contest. Also, membership has its advantages. The one account that fits your needs, the high yield checking account, Ascend Checking, starting at 2%. You can get a great rate to start off with. And the more relationship you have with us, the more products and services you have with us, the greater interest rate. Each one that you add can add up to 0.4 additional percent, getting you all the way up to 5.2 for a checking account. And last but definitely not least, there's a crunch on all of our finances out there as inflation continues to go up. Recession looms. If you in the market and need a new car, a used car new to you, longer term, lower payment, drive the one you want, whether it's a car, boat, motorcycle, RV, etc. Go check out alabama1.org, and we'll give you 60 days no pay so you can keep those first couple of months in your high yield checking account that you opened as well. Terms and conditions do apply, so go check it out. DC, just interesting conversation there, and I'll wrap up the GOAT conversation by saying this. It's a subjective thing. You know, the Bryant people love Coach Bryant. The Saban people love Saban. Based on what the criteria is, you can have different people, different guys. Hey, listen, for me, taking a program, an extended, proven, accomplished program to a place that it's never been makes you a GOAT. Right? In my opinion. That's why Nate Oates is the GOAT of Alabama basketball. DC?
Yeah, I agree. It's that's your opinion. That's subjective. I think it's subjective everywhere. I would consider Nate Oates one of the GOATs of Alabama basketball. I would consider what he's done as a great accomplishment. He's taken this team to heights it's never been. And I don't think in the words of Coach Saban, I don't think it's the end. I think it's only the beginning. We got an opportunity. We haven't even talked about his commitment to the University of Alabama, his statement last night. And I'm sure Kentucky will say they never offered him a job. They don't want to be turned down by an Alabama coach.
Yeah, but hold on, DC, because I want to show and read that statement because that was one of my questions to you, DC. Was what does Nate Oates' decision to stay means what? So that's the question I want you to answer after I read this.
Go ahead.
Complete this statement. Nate Oates' decision to stay means what? And Nate Oates said, I am fully committed to this team. I love this team and to this university. Not just to the next year's team or whatever, but to the university as well. We have already accomplished some great things here, and there is nothing I want more than for the University of Alabama to win its first national championship in men's basketball. Despite any rumors to the contrary, rest assured that I will continue that pursuit as your head coach. Roll Tide. Nate Oates' statement and decision to stay means what, DC?
In my opinion, it means that he sees Alabama as an equal. Alabama coaching job is equal to the Kentucky coaching job. He loves it here. He's committed here. And he has a plan to get us back to not only make it to the Final Four again, but to win a national championship. In his mind, that is his goal. His job here is not finished. It's only the beginning. That's how I interpret that.
Ed, your thoughts?
Nate Oates believes in what he has built and is building in Tuscaloosa, and he doesn't want to leave until he reaches that pinnacle.
And I love the fact that hey, listen, there couldn't be a bigger challenge. Now, are we saying something different if Nate Oates don't break that glass ceiling that had kept Alabama out of the Elite Eight all but once and out of the Final Four? Probably not. But the fact that he got there, DC, what does that mean for Alabama basketball? What does it mean? You know, how impactful was Saturday's game to the immediate and, distant future of Alabama basketball?
Huge. I think breaking through that ceiling of Elite Eight, one Elite Eight appearance to the Final Four was huge, because that's a step that no one's ever taken before. And so I think it gave him confidence. It gave the players confidence in him and in what he's building here. It was huge for recruiting. I know the coaches have been using that for recruiting. We'll continue to use it for recruiting. And, you can say what you want, but, Alabama was not far from Kentucky anyway. I'm talking about in the era of people, of the aura of people of what basketball is. If you look at the SEC, Alabama was the second best team overall in the SEC, winningest team for a long time. And Alabama, I think, has now solidified themselves as a quote unquote, top tier basketball school in the SEC and competing for championships. And that's what he's building. That's what he wants to continue. He wants to carry that on. So I agree with X wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and he can now sit in a room and have a conversation and say, "Come, let's win championships at Alabama."
That's right.
He couldn't say that before.
And be honest about it.
Right. That's what
I'm
saying.
blowing smoke.
Right. He couldn't say that before because the other coaches would say, "Why go there? They can't even get to the big dance, the Final Four." Well, it's sort of like when Nick Saban finally got past that point of the first 3 or 4 years of him leaving and telling people no. And I think after the storm, the tornado, and he locked in at Alabama, it took away a recruiting, and he continued to dominate recruiting. And I think that's where we are with Nate Oates. Philip, you're on with DC and Xavier. I would like for you to complete. I know you want to talk about the Kentucky job, but complete the statement. Nate Oates' decision to stay means what?
Nate Oates' decision to stay means money, and prestige for the Tuscaloosa community and the University of Alabama campus.
Does Nate Oates' decision to stay mean that there's a new Coliseum underway?
Well, it possibly could, but I live about 25 miles due east of Auburn, over in Lynette. Live right on the state line of Georgia, the Georgia state line, and I've gone to Auburn all my life. I've gone down there forever. Know the place like the back of my hand. And after Auburn made the Final Four a few years ago, I don't know if it by itself changed Auburn's course on campus, but for a while there were, all you saw were high rises going up, which is not necessarily the greatest thing, but that changed that campus forever. I don't know when the last time you went down to Auburn, but that place is not even recognizable to the town that it used to be. It's grown, it's boomed, and it's incredibly different from what it used to be in 1985, 1995, 2000 even. Okay? So if Alabama plays this right, the power and prestige and money that's going to come into the university community is going to be unbelievable. And I think it's going to continue to pick up steam like they've never seen. So I hope the Tuscaloosa City Council and the politicians up there are ready for the growth that I think can come from this, because it's going to be exponential. It's going to be incredible.
Hey, I know you want to respond to Kentucky, so I'm gonna let you hold on to the other side. But I'll say this, Philip: the hotel people who own all these hotels are really hoping Nate Oates can keep this run going, because that's unfortunately that's about all we've built as a whole in Tuscaloosa is a bunch of hotels under the Nick Saban era. Maybe we can do some of what Auburn did and start building out some industry and more business and things, and get more of the community involved from an economic standpoint. We'll be back on the other side. Let Philip say what he wants to say about Kentucky. We'll quickly work Chuck in, and then we'll get DC's closing thoughts on Alabama hoops and Alabama's 8A game.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have got a very quiet start to this Tuesday morning commute all around the T-Town region this morning. 2059 from Foster's to Cottondale. The drive along Lurling Wallace coming down from Northport, crossing the Hugh Thomas Bridge to the University exit.
.com/deal or text deal to 511-511. Text deal to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. We're running tight on time, so we're going to get get Philip in. Philip, you had something to say about the Kentucky job. What's on your mind, sir?
Yeah, Mark, all I want to ask you, and I know you're tight, is where do you think Kentucky goes now? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, man.
All right. DC, quickly.
I think they're going to try to make a run at Billy Donovan of the NBA. I don't think that's going to be successful. I think they're going to end up going with the Baylor coach, or they may end up with Bruce Pearl out of Auburn. That seems to be I don't think Jay Wright's coming out of retirement. I don't think Dan Hurley. When Dan Hurley was asked last night, he said no way. So I think there's 3 off the board already.
Well, I think Dan Hurley, he said it. Connecticut is the most dominant basketball program probably in the last 25 years. He said we ran college basketball. 6 titles. I think that they clearly can make that claim. I think they go after the Baylor coach. I think that I hope Jay Wright doesn't come out.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd hate to see Jay Wright with that type of talent, because he was able to be, he was a great coach at Villanova. So I hope that's not the case. Let's get, Chuck in with, Xavier and DC. What's on your mind?
Yes, good morning. I'm going to be quick. I just wanted to tell you all covering the tournament, but also I wanted to recognize a guy who's a resident not far from you all is Dr. Charles McClellan, who's the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, which is headquartered in Birmingham. He's a man you saw on the stage who was handing out the trophy to the champions. He's the chairman of the NCAA men's basketball selection committee. And I want to recognize Dr. McClellan. Also, I want to recognize Charles Smith, legendary high school basketball coach here in Louisiana at Peabody Magnet High School in Alexandria, Louisiana. He's been selected for the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. He's been there over 50 years. He has 10 state championships to his credit. 1 as an assistant and 9 as head coach. And he's still working. He's driving the team bus and he's math teacher as well. And he's still winning championships. I wanted to point that out. And he coached Markel Brown and guy who played at UConn, Eric Hayward, the Jim Calhoun in the 90s. I want to point all that out.
Thanks, Chuck, for that. And of course, you have Coach Smith, as he mentioned, but also McClellan. Great March Madness tournament, DC. I probably was more engaged in this one than I've been in a while, so that may make it better. But great job on seeding and different things like that, and made it possible for some Cinderella stories. And ultimately, the 2 teams that had been the best all year played for the championship. And the best team in the country is the national champion this morning. What are your thoughts on the scrimmage, DC? Got a couple minutes. Any thoughts on scrimmage, and then your thoughts of what you're looking for in A-Day?
Yeah, I think Kellen DeBoer has really been putting together a great off-season spring practices, and in the scrimmage and the way he's done it. A lot of great news coming out of scrimmage about some of the individuals, but maybe the team concepts is really kind of settling in now as far as offense and defense, and people are picking up those things. So I look forward to A-Day game. I think it's going to be really a lot of good thing on display. You're going to see offense and defense on display. Going to probably get some great performances from people that we expect, like Jalen Milroe and others. You're going to probably see some performances from people you don't expect. That always happens. But you're going to see an Alabama team that's coming out and still being Alabama, even though we have a new coach. and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be there. DC Capstone Report's going to be on site. Lance was going to have some great content. He'll have a lot of stuff we'll be putting up on our website. And I will also have some go live there from the A-Day from DC Capstone Report page. So be sure and check that out this Saturday.
Hey, DC, what's your biggest question mark or concern for A-Day?
I think my biggest concern is to see where we are on our offensive line as far as I think that's going to be the start of our offense doing well, and then see where we are on our defensive backs. I think that's going to be a key to our defense playing in this Kane Womack system. So I'm looking at those two areas. Probably not the one everybody's looking at, but I think offensive line, defensive backs is what's going to make both these sides of the ball go well this year.
Yeah, and those two are things that I definitely want to see more of. I'm going to tell you the one that we're not talking about, which will come down to probably a couple wins or a couple losses, and that's the kicker. I'm going to watch those guys. Coach DeBoer kind of talked a little bit about that on his press conference, so we'll get his thoughts on the kicker themselves. Also, the wide receiver room, how we integrate. I don't know how much they're going to show, but I know that Alabama has a lot of talent and is one of the few teams that will be contending, in my opinion, and we'll talk more about that on tomorrow. We'll also have a little would you rather. Would you rather have a coach that the Kentuckys of the world is coming after and have to deal with it every year? Or would you rather have a guy that just kind of does a good job, keeps us relevant, but not have to go through, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? Is it a good thing? Did the fact that Nate Oates quickly became the top dog or the top cat candidate for Kentucky, what it means for college basketball, that Alabama is now one of the top programs and have one of the top coaches. We'll talk about all those things on tomorrow. DC, give them one more shout out before you get out of here.
Yeah, just want to thank you for being on the show today, and just want to thank my sponsor, Karen Cottingham. She's doing great right now. She just told me that the market's hot. If you want to contact her for real estate at Keller Williams and the Williams Group, 205-887-4008. She actually told me yesterday that she's got 3 contracts in 3 days, so the market's ready if you want to buy or you want to sell.
All right. That's DC Capstone Report. Xavier Houston on the other line. I'm Martin Houston. That's Justin Jones. We are the Martin Houston Show. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I'll leave you with Nate Oates' comments for those who are on the live stream.